Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, April 2nd. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect some clouds and a high of 72 degrees in San Antonio today. The weekend should bring similar temperatures but increased rain chances. We're looking at much warmer temperatures next week. The recent influx in Central American migrants at the U.S. Mexico border was a prime topic of conversation on the latest episode of our Puro Politics podcast. The podcast featured U.S. Representative Henry Cuellar, a veteran centrist Democrat whose district includes eastern San Antonio and much of the South Texas border region. Keep an eye out on our Taste Teams page this morning for our latest stop in our tour of San Antonio food trucks. This week's review features one of San Antonio's best Philly cheesesteaks. Is it time for lunch yet? And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. The revamped Alamo Plaza renovation plan is gaining speed after nearly half a year of inaction, winning another round of support, this time from the Alamo Citizen Advisory Committee. The new multi-million-dollar makeover, which includes permanently closing Alamo Street down between Houston and Crockett Streets by June 1st and keeping the cenotaph where it has stood for more than 80 years, now heads to the City Council. Wednesday night's action by the Citizen Advisory Panel ended a string of rapid-fire changes to the project. Scott Huddleston takes a closer look at where it stands and how we got here in his latest article. Some San Antonio parents are so eager to get their children protected against COVID-19 that they're trying to sign them up for vaccine appointments, even though the shots aren't approved yet for anyone under 16. Texas moved open vaccine eligibility for all adults beginning March 29. But some San Antonio parents apparently misunderstood that Texans younger than 16 aren't included in the state's 22.4 million residents who can now get the shot. Bill Phillips, who helps oversee the mass vaccination site run by University Health at Wonderland Mall, said a growing number of parents have been trying to register their children for shots, including some who walk in with their kids to ask for appointments. He estimates parents have tried to sign up as many as 15 children for appointments each day, all the way down to 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds, he said. Marina Starley-Freiker has more in her latest article. Hours after midnight Thursday morning, the Republican-dominated Texas Senate approved a bill that will restrict voting access in the name of preventing fraud. The bill is making it easy to vote and hard to cheat, said the bill's author, State Senator Brian Hughes, in a video to supporters at about 2 a.m. Yet, Democrats repeatedly warned throughout the debate the disproportionate effects that Senate Bill 7 would have on minority voters in a state that already has some of the most restricted voting laws in the country. We have a rundown of the major provisions of the bill over at expressnews.com. Gilbert Garcia writes, quote, 3 years ago, Pete Gallego and Roland Gutierrez fought it out in a bruising special election for Texas Senate District 19. The two Democrats previously had served together in the Texas House before Gallego won a one-term ride to Congress in 2012. In the race for Texas Senate, they ultimately negated each other, opening the door for a Republican, Pete Flores, to pull off an upset win. Now, Gutierrez holds the Texas Senate seat he wanted. Gallegos is out of politics, serving as the president of his alma mater, Sul Ross State University. Everyone's happy, right? Head over to expressnews.com to read Gilbert Garcia's full column to find out why that's not the case. In the dead of night, while most Texans were asleep, the state Senate voted to approve a massive election bill that virtually no one had a chance to read in full after a flurry of amendments just prior to the vote. Even though the bill affects more than 16 million voters in the state, lawmakers adjourned at 1:39 a.m. early Thursday, then reconvened 1 minute later at 1:40 a.m. and declared it a new legislative day in order to comply with public notice rules. Jeremy Wallace takes a closer look at those rules and the way they're avoided in his latest article. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. Over the last year, fast food employees have dealt with a lot. To show appreciation, San Antonio-based Whataburger is awarding more than $90 million in bonuses to its 46,000 employees, an average of nearly $2,000 each. USAA announced Thursday that it will donate $1.1 million to support the Asian American Pacific Islander community in the midst of pandemic-related attacks. It marks the first commitment this year by USAA to advance racial equality. San Antonio travelers could benefit from President Joe Biden's proposed infrastructure plan that includes $80 billion for rail. Amtrak said it would use the potential funds for new and improved lines, including one that would connect Texas's largest cities. A life coach from Kerrville was arrested after tipsters identified her and a man from the photos on social media that show them inside the Capitol. Elizabeth Rose Williams is one of 32 Texans facing charges in connections with the January 6th Capitol riot. Bexar County Commissioner Justin Rodriguez said during Thursday's coronavirus briefing that the Metropolitan Health District would administer 20,000 vaccinations next week, an increase of 7,000 over previous weeks. The Longhorns' search for a successor to Shaka Smart came to an end Thursday as athletic director Chris Del Conte hired Texas Tech's Chris Beard as the new Longhorns men's basketball coach. A year after the pandemic first took hold in the United States, Toyota's vehicle sales have rebounded even as global supply shortages forced the automaker to cut back production of some of its San Antonio-built trucks. The White House will commemorate former president and native Texan Lyndon B. Johnson with its annual Christmas ornament featuring one of Johnson's most enduring quotes on social injustice and voting rights. Governor Greg Abbott returned to South Texas on Thursday, claiming early success in his effort to shore up the southern border amid a surge of migrants crossing into the United States. Hoping to contrast himself with President Biden, Abbott says state troopers dispatched along the border last month have contributed to a staggering crackdown there. Texas moved one step closer to making it easier for neighborhoods to remove racist language that lingers, no longer enforceable but difficult to remove, in real estate documents that restrict to whom a home can be sold. The average rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage in the week ending April 1st was 3.18%, more than half a percentage point higher than in January. And while it's still a seller's market, the higher rates are having an effect. Texas Republicans may want some voters to stand in long lines for unconscionable periods of time for no good reason. But, hey, like Georgia Republicans, they don't want them to go thirsty, writes the Express News editorial board in its latest article. It's voter suppression in Texas, not ballot security. Ever wanted a palatial ranch to call your very own, at least for one long weekend? Around 20 private ranches are available for public rental through Explore Ranches, a Texas rental business that's like Airbnb for premium high-end ranch houses on lots of acreage. Launched in late 2018 by a trio of Texans with long roots in ranching and land conservation, Explore Ranches offers city slickers a taste of the country life with the keys to select landowners' plush properties. Most of these homes on the range are found in Texas. Each is surrounded by at least hundreds if not thousands of acres with miles of scenic vistas and untamed wildlife. And for several hundred or several $1,000s a night, renters can bask in all that natural glory from the comfort of each ranch's resort-like bedrooms, patios, pools, and other posh settings. Rene Guzman has more in his latest article. Recent Asian restaurant openings include powerhouse Cambodian cuisine at Golden Wat, great sushi at Shiro, plus ramen at Yokai. Mike Sutter has your guide to the new restaurants over at expressnews.com. Touring bands are still staying close to home, but the road this week seems to extend at least as far as Oklahoma. A couple of red dirt favorites are among the bands playing live this weekend in the San Antonio area. We have a look at the weekend's best bets over at expressnews.com. Whether it's a quick nip or deep latched-on bite, find out how to redirect your cat's aggression and save your hands over on our website. With a former Bohannon's chef at the helm, Lazo with Don Strange will serve South Texas-inspired favorites in a new hotel. J-Dub's Burgers and Grubs has found a second home at Moses' Hideout downtown, and a whole snack shop devoted to Mexican street corn, Elotito's Corn Bar, is opening in San Antonio's Deco district. The women's Final Four will play out Friday in the Alamo Dome, with Stanford meeting South Carolina and Connecticut clashing with Arizona. It's a mix of the fresh and familiar in the women's college basketball world. A career-low free throw mark of 38% has marred an otherwise spectacular season for the Spurs starting center. Read more about Jakob Poeltl's kryptonite over at expressnews.com. And that's all for today. This was your Express Briefing for Friday, April 2nd. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.